Don't just live for tomorrow, or just live in yesterday. Just be glad for all you have that's in today.
Hey everyone, Connie here, and welcome to my Blind Reactions episode 2 of Cybersix. That's right, we're back with another episode. Been longer than I wanted it to be. I wanted to get to one late last week, but I just wasn't really in the mood for it, as you guys know. I wasn't really up for doing much reactions last week at all, but still. So we're back either way, and I'm excited to get to more of this. Now, after I posted the first episode, I was informed about some things regarding this. Apparently, in the original comic that this series is based off of and everything, it was different in what Cybersix herself did. Because in the series, if you remember, in episode 1, we saw her, like, when the enemies turn into these vials of, like, this green acidic liquid, she would drink them. Apparently, in the original comic, it was blood. And that she was also known for, like biting into people and drinking their blood or stuff, like vampire-like. And it kind of makes me think of, like, okay, so this was clear censorship. And it's kind of like in the old Spider-Man cartoon, where Morbius, the living vampire, was censored. Instead of, vampire stuff, he had these, like, hand suckers that he would use to extract plasma from people. And it was like, some people actually found that a little creepier. Personally, I never really understood, like, the censorship with that. And I guess by extension, I don't understand the censorship with this either. It's like vampires have always been a big part of culture, like, well before the 90s. And kids have always been big into vampires. I mean, yes, can the concept of vampires be scary and a little unsettling? Yeah, of course. But, like, it's never been an issue. It's never been, like, too scary or too graphic or anything. So it's like, I just don't fully understand why that would be an issue to where it'd have to be censored. I also found out that there is apparently a live action Cybersix. I don't know if it's in, I think it's in French, but I don't know if it's a series or a movie or something. I don't know. Like, I just know that there's a live action. I've seen, like, a very brief clip of it. So I don't really know much of anything about it in comparison to the show or the comics or whatever. I don't even know that much about the comics, to be honest. I do know that apparently the comics, like, have a bigger storyline to things, and they go into a lot more involving things. I did hear that. I don't know all the details on what that means, so I don't know, like, spoilers or anything. I just know that they go into a lot more than the series does, which makes sense because the series is only 13 episodes and it's one season. But going into this, I don't know what the second episode's going to be about at all. I did enjoy the first episode, though, very much. I really like that our main character here is a cross-dresser, as I mentioned in the first episode, Afterthoughts and all. Even though it's not like a hobby kind of thing in this case, it's not anything like that. It's more like she has to kind of hide her identity while just in the everyday world, to keep away from the mad scientist dude, her creator, I guess. But yeah, I really enjoy that aspect of things because you don't see that a lot in cartoons where it's actually taken seriously. like when you see cross-dressing in cartoons, it's usually like the kind of cross-dressing you see in like Looney Tunes or Animaniacs, where it's done for a gag, where it's comedic. It's like, oh, this male character is dressing as a female character. Bugs Bunny dresses as a girl, tricks Elmer Fudd, kisses him in a comically over-the-top fashion, and then just screws with him before like running away and stuff. It's like that's how cross-dressing a lot of times is shown in animation. I'm not saying all the time, and there's definitely other examples of it being done well, I'm sure. But it's like this is an example of it being taken as a very serious thing, as something like, again, in this case, she has to do to be able to escape her creator. But it's not treated as a joke. It's not treated as anything comedic or ridiculous or used in some way to, in any way to be treated as negative. It's shown as just something she does, and it's okay. And I like that. I like that it's given that kind of respect to it. I don't know where this series is going to go. As I stated in my first reaction afterthoughts, I do want Lucas, I think his name is. I do want him to find out before the end. Although I feel like it's either going to go one of two ways. Either he's going to find out at the very end, or he's not going to find out, because that's just how these things tend to go a lot of the time. Unfortunately, as it is. Although I still believe that he should find out. Like, from a storytelling perspective, I think it would just be the best option. But that's probably not what's going to happen, considering, like, you know, it's a late 90s, early 2000s cartoon. And it's probably going to stick with the tropes a lot more than I would like in that case. But, I mean, otherwise, the first episode, like, wasn't too tropey to where it was unenjoyable. It was definitely enjoyable still. It was fun. It was exciting. It was entertaining. It does show its age, but it's not, like, too, like, old to where it's just, again, unenjoyable. I feel like it's a good mix, I would say, of both of those aspects. But we'll have to see exactly where this goes and how well it goes and all of that jazz. I'm hoping that this series ends up being pretty great. But it's hard to tell at this point. So we'll see. Either way, I'm excited to get to episode 2. Like I said, I know nothing about what's to come, not only in this episode, but in general. I do know there's a character who was mentioned in the credits of the first episode who wasn't in the episode. So I assume the credits like show maybe every character just generally, or at least every main character maybe. So I assume there's going to be another character showing up. I don't remember their name though. I also noted last time how I knew some of the voice actors from various other things. Like Cybersix's VA, Kathy Wesluck, is from MLP and Death Note. So it's like, that's pretty cool. And I've met her too. I've actually met Kathy Wesluck at BronyCon. So there's that as well. But either way, I'm very much interested to see how this ends up. And I should probably stop just dragging on these pre-thoughts like I tend to do. So, that being said, when the screen fades to black, pause this redirect and go to the description below. Follow the link to the reaction, and after you watch it, come back here to the redirect and resume play. Because after it fades to black and then fades back in, everything from that point forward will be my afterthoughts and will contain spoilers to the episode. So that being said, thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you at the reaction. Okay, and we are back, and we'll begin with spoilers in 3, 2, 1, now. Damn this show for making me feel things 2 episodes in. Seriously, like, I actually was starting to get teary-eyed at that. And, like I rewatched it back because obviously I used that as my thumbnail. Cybersix realizing who Data 7 is and all. And I watched it back and it's like it got to me even more that time, and it's like I mean, you guys know I'm not afraid to admit when I cry. I acknowledge it. I'm very open about it. And I do it quite a bit on this channel. Um, and yeah, that was a tear-inducing moment for sure. Um, and it's wild because it is only the second episode. This is only the second episode of the series. We've gotten to know Cybersix a bit, but not like to a great deal. And Data 7 was only introduced in this episode, including the backstory about him and everything. So it's like, we don't have a lot of this context with these characters. Like in other shows, when I've cried, it's like, oh, it's because we know these characters very well by this point. We have all this context with them. We have grown to love them. And, well, I definitely like Cybersix so far, or Adrian, or whatever you want to call her at whatever point in time. I very much like her and the other characters as well so far. It's just like, it seems early to get that emotionally attached to a moment in a show, to get that emotionally affected by a plot point like this. Especially, again, with the character who was just introduced this episode, with Data 7. So this episode focuses on these two new characters it introduces. Data 7 used to be known as 29. 29 was Cybersix's brother. Now, using that term loosely, because obviously they're artificially created people, and so it's like they're only brother and sister in terms of the fact that they were created together, I presume, and that they kind of grew up together in that kind of role. So they have that familial bond. However, when younger, 29 apparently fell off a cliff while him and Cybersix were trying to get a flower. Cybersix was unable to save him, and she kept this picture of them in her wallet this entire time as a kind of way to remember him and never forget, well, as kind of a morbid way of looking at, never forget that failure that she had in the past, so she can work to not do that again, to not fail like that again. What she didn't know is that 29 was like reborn, as the mad scientist put it, remade into Data 7, a panther, a genetically engineered super panther. And so during the episode, when obviously Cybersix is fighting Data 7 as well as trying to fend him off while saving Julian, she has no clue. But then, as you see throughout the episode, Data 7's having these bits and pieces of memory flooding back to him. He's kind of acting on orders because that's what he was engineered to do, but you see he's having these little flashes of memory. And finally, when he sees the photo at the end, as well as Cybersix's arm tattoo, it all comes back to him. And he's able to break out of his programming in the style, I guess you could say in the style of Detroit Become Human, break away from his programming and side with her instead. Save Julian, side with Cybersix, terrorize Jose and his crew a little. And it's like, cool. So I'm hoping that we do get to see more of Data 7 in the future. But like the other character it introduced us to was Julian. So Julian is, I presume, an orphan. It's not ever directly said, but it is said that he has nowhere else to go. So it's kind of presumed that he's an orphan who was taken in by this criminal, this thief. And he's been living with him for some unknown amount of time. He's been coerced into stealing wallets and stuff, but we can see that Julian does have a sense of right and wrong and is choosing to try and well, refuse to steal anymore. Not going exactly well for him. But we see Julian as sort of this, well, innocent, naive, young friend character. And someone who I feel can help in the context of the show and with our main character of Cybersix. Someone who I feel is going to be able to help Cybersix not really become more human. Obviously, it's not Detroit Become Human, but in kind of the same fashion, it's going to help Cybersix kind of connect to that side a little better and connect to emotional, well, connectivity with others. Because as we saw in the first episode, she was wondering if she should even try to be friends with Lucas. Because it felt like she was trying to be distant. So I'm thinking maybe having some kind of relationship, almost like maybe a mother-son relationship with Julian, will help her be able to break out of that shell a little bit and come to terms with connecting to others, which would in turn help her connect with Lucas a little better. That's what I'm kind of seeing Julian's role in the series as. And I'm not saying that that's all he's going to be good for. I'm sure he'll have a lot more to do in this series. At least I hope so. But I'm just saying, like, that seems like why they brought him in, to me at least. Why his character is here. And granted, Data 7 also can help with that kind of aspect because of the past and everything. Because of how connected they were. So I feel like these two characters are going to kind of, like, be a tandem inspiration for Cybersix to kind of connect with others. At least that's how I see it. Obviously, I don't know where this is going at all. But that's the only thing I can think of right now. And again, I'm not saying that that's their only purpose here, and they could still be good characters going forward. I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, I'm really interested to see how this all comes together. Also, will Julian ever find out that Cybersix is the same person he tried to rob? Like, it's one thing asking if Lucas is going to find out, but will Julian ever know? Is she going to trust him with that secret? And there's a lot of questions you have to wonder about here. But yeah, I actually enjoyed this episode more than the first one, and nothing against the first one, but I thought this episode, just that emotional aspect of it, the story, the emotional connection with Data 7's character, I just, even the stuff with Jose taking over the criminal underworld, and everything, I enjoyed it more than what we saw in the first one. I just thought it was it was more exciting, more interesting, and more enjoyable on a general basis. So yeah, I thought this was a really good episode. And again, I have no idea exactly where it's going to go at all. I'm hoping, though, that this series continues to be this good, even better. But yeah, I'm also glad that this episode showed us that Cybersix, when she's in her vigilante mode, you could say, isn't just going to be like this cold, emotionless character. I mentioned in this episode that she reminded me of Batman, and that's another reason. Because people think Batman's like this cold, emotionless vigilante when he's in costume and stuff, but he's really not. Like, there are a lot of examples of him being actually very open emotionally while in costume and stuff. Like, I believe there was one thing from, I think it was Batman the Animated Series. I'm not 100% on that. It might have been a different Batman cartoon, or it might have been even a Justice League cartoon or something. But there's this character named Ace. I think that was her name. But she was like dying or something. She was gonna die, and she was like sitting on a swing in like a I don't remember all the details down to every little last thing, but she was like sitting on a swing in a playground, and Batman sat on the one next to her, and they just talked, just vulnerably talked about what was going on. I think he even hugged her. Because believe it or not, Batman does have emotion, and he does show it. I mean, hell, that's actually a big deal for him. That's one of his biggest reasons for becoming a superhero, because of the emotions of what drove him to that. His parents' death and all of the other stuff going on in Gotham. His emotions are literally his driving force. So it's like people automatically think, "Oh, it's Batman. He's cold. He's emotionless." And sometimes they use that as a joke in various shows, comics, movies, whatnot. But no, that actually goes against what Batman's all about. And I'm glad that they're showing that with Cyber 6 as well. That they're showing that she's not going to just be this cold, emotionless hero. When she's talking to Julian, trying to convince him to come with her and everything, she's being very calm. She's being very nice. She's being genuine with him, not trying to force it, not trying to like say, "Oh, you're coming with me." No, it's like, "Please come with me." And I like that. And we even see her smile and laugh in this episode, and it's like it's just really good to see that. Plus, I mean, it's just good to see her smiling and laughing, especially after the Data 7 reveal and everything. Um, it's good to see her smiling and laughing, just genuinely happy at her brother being back in her life. Like that's just, it's just really fucking sweet and cute and wholesome as hell. And I just really liked it. I just really did. Um, Now, also, after I watched the first episode, I did look up some good fan art. I don't think I got spoiled on anything. I mean, it's just like basic fan art of Cyber 6 as a character, and some of the fan art had like both Adrian and Cyber 6 like back to back and stuff. There was no like big information through any of it. um, but it's like, yeah, I really like that there's actually a community for this. That there are actually people who are really into this show, and that there's fan art for it. I think that's really cool to see, because, as I said, it's like it is a good show so far, and I think a lot of people don't know it. I feel like a lot of people don't know it because it's pretty obscure when you think about it. Like, because I had never heard of it prior to seeing the opening, and even after that, I never have ever heard anyone talking about it, ever, until after I got into it and started looking things up, and then I saw there were people doing fan art and talking about it and stuff. Um, but yeah, it's like I think that's cool. I think that it's cool that there is a fandom for this, even if it's a small one. But yeah, I really enjoyed this second episode, and this is definitely something I really am excited to continue for the channel. Um, Now, one last thing, I do want to make a quick comparison, because I believe I mentioned this in the first episode in the afterthoughts or something, and I just really quickly want to go over that. I mentioned Oban Star Racers last time, I believe. And the reason is because they come from the same era and everything, and they kind of have not really a similar thing going on, but they have a similar feel in their animation and whatnot. But the big difference here for me, the reason why I'm loving this one so much and why I just couldn't get into Oban, for me, is because of the characters and story. I automatically am more interested in the characters and story of Cyber 6 than I was after however many episodes of Oban I ended up watching. Like, the only character I really cared about in Oban was Molly, the main character. And I mean, granted, yes, you should definitely care about the main character. I wanted to care about other characters, and I didn't. I couldn't. And one thing that kind of connects them, at least so far, is that they both have this kind of secret that needs to be revealed. The only issue here is that this is like a shorter series, I believe. And the secret with Cybersix and with Lucas possibly finding out isn't as big a deal. It doesn't feel as big a deal. Because in Oban, Molly's secret about being the one guy, the race manager's daughter, I can't remember his name, and the fact that she was hiding that from them, that was a bigger deal. I mean, obviously because of the familial relation. And it just felt like hiding something like that, something that big of a deal, especially something that big to the overall plot of the series, felt really off. It just didn't work, in my opinion, to hide that for long. It's the same reason why I didn't like that they hid Shiny Chariot's identity from Akko for the entire series. Even though they pulled it off in the end, I still don't like it because it felt like it was too big of a thing to hide for that long from our main character. But again, in Cybersix, it feels a lot more natural. It feels a lot more believable to do something like that. Because again, she's a superhero vigilante. Her identity needs to be kept more secret. And especially from loved ones. Like that's a very common thing in superhero media. So it's like that makes sense. I get that here. So yeah, that's how I feel about it anyway. I think that this is basically doing things right in that regard. Where Oban kind of, at least in my opinion, didn't do them as right. But yeah, like I said, I can't wait to see where this goes from here. I am excited to find out more and see more of these genetically engineered creatures that the mad scientist keeps sending after Cybersix. We see a few in the opening, such as those gargoyles. And I hope that this continues to be enjoyable for its 13 episodes. Hey, and maybe in the future I will check out the comic. I mean, I might be able to find it somewhere. I'm not a big comic reader, but hey, you never know. Maybe I'll even check out the live-action Cybersix at some point, if I can find it again. Because that might be even more hard to find, if this is obscure. We'll see. Either way, tell me your thoughts on this episode down in the comments below, and thank you so much for tuning in. For now, I'm Connie, and I'm signing off. See y'all next time.